I died, choking on my own blood, the metallic tang flooding my mouth as the pills I'd swallowed twisted into a noose around my neck. Except it wasn't suicide. Not really. Because Marcus had laced them with something vicious. Something that made my veins burn like they'd been dipped in acid. The last thing I saw was his face. That perfect, chiseled jaw I'd immortalized in oils 1,000 times. Smirking from the doorway of my studio as the world blurred to black. And then, nothing, until the screech of tires yanked me back, my heart slamming against ribs that suddenly felt too young, too alive. The dashboard clock reading 10:15 a.m. On a crisp October morning in 2015, exactly 10 years before the end. I gasped, my hands flying to the steering wheel of my beat-up Honda Civic. The one I'd driven before the gallery openings and the champagne flutes and the lies that built an empire on my back. Rain hammered the windshield like accusatory fists, and outside, the blurred neon of Soho's galleries mocked me. Petzl.
Pace.
The little indie spots where I'd hustled as a nobody artist with dreams bigger than my bank account. Marcus. His name slithered through my mind like smoke, and I knew it instantly. This wasn't a dream. Wasn't some fevered hallucination from the edge of death. I'd come back. Reborn in my 25-year-old body, with all the rot of the future etched into my soul. And this time, I wouldn't let him paint me into the corner of my own life. The hook lodged in my throat as I pulled over, tires squealing against the wet pavement, and dry heaved into the gutter. 10 years. I'd spent them chasing the ghost of that first meeting. The day he'd strolled into my pop-up show like he owned the rain-slicked streets.
But now?
Now I had the map of every betrayal, every whispered deal in smoke-filled backrooms, every canvas he'd claimed as his own. My hands trembled as I wiped my mouth, staring at the faded tattoo on my wrist, a stylized eye, inked during a wild night in Brooklyn that now felt like prophecy. I'd open my eyes wider this time. I'd make him bleed ink instead of blood. That afternoon, I ditched the planned pitch meeting with a mid-level curator who'd ghost me in the original timeline anyway. Fuck her and her edgy but marketable bullshit. Instead, I hauled ass to my tiny walk-up in the East Village, the one with a fire escape that doubled as my smoking perch and the walls papered in sketches of faces I'd never sell. The air smelled of turpentine and stale ramen, and as I shoved open the door, a wave of déjà vu hit me like a freight train. There, on the easel, sat the half-finished portrait, broad shoulders, piercing blue eyes under arched brows, a mouth that could curl into a smile or a sneer with equal ease. I'd started it last week, after spotting a guy in a coffee shop who reminded me of him. Marcus Hale. The man who'd become my muse, my lover, my destroyer. I grabbed a rag and wiped the canvas clean, the oil smearing like accusations. No more painting ghosts. This time, I'd arm myself with the truth, the kind that didn't come from brushes but from ledgers and emails and the cold, hard proof I'd gathered in those final months before the pills. In the future, I'd uncovered it all, how Marcus, with his Ivy League charm and venture capital Rolodex, had siphoned my ideas to his consulting firm, turning my raw, obsessive series, Echoes of the Unseen, into a billion-dollar NFT empire while I rotted in obscurity, accused of plagiarism by the very critics he'd bought off. He'd framed me for embezzling gallery funds, planted evidence in my studio, and when the noose tightened, he'd slipped me the fatal dose during what he called our last reconciliation. Deep betrayal? That was just the appetizer. The secret he'd buried? My work wasn't just stolen, it was weaponized. Used to launder money for his shady tech bros. The kind who trafficked in data theft and offshore accounts. But I wasn't that Amaya anymore, the wide-eyed painter who believed in soulmates and serendipity. This version had teeth. I fired up my ancient laptop, the one that still ran Windows 7 like a relic from a bygone war, and started digging. No, not digging, revisiting. I knew the timestamps, the IP addresses, the anonymous tips I'd ignored back then. By midnight, I'd hacked into an old forum thread using a password I'd sworn to forget. News4Ever69. Pathetic, but effective. There it was, Marcus's early posts under a pseudonym, scouting raw talent for his collective. He'd been hunting artists like me since his days at Yale, preying on dreamers with trust funds smaller than their ambitions.
Sleep didn't come easy that night.
I lay on my futon, the city's siren wail filtering through the cracked window, and plotted. Revenge wasn't a brushstroke, it was a scalpel. I'd insert myself back into his orbit, but on my terms. No starry-eyed introductions this time. I'd make him chase me, make him invest, make him think he was the spider weaving the web. And when the thread snapped, I'd watch him unravel. The next week blurred into a frenzy of reinvention. I dyed my hair jet black, chopped it into a jagged bob that screamed unapproachable genius, and traded my thrift store sundresses for leather jackets and Doc Martens that echoed like gunshots on the gallery floors. I crashed every opening from Chelsea to the Lower East Side, whispering just enough about my upcoming series on fractured identities to get the right ears perking up. Whispers traveled fast in the art world, faster than STDs at a Bushwick warehouse party, and by Friday, I had a slot at a group show in a converted meatpacking warehouse. The theme? Shadows of betrayal. Ironic, right? As I unpacked my canvases, new ones, all abstract fury in crimson and obsidian, hinting at the man without ever showing his face, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Heart pounding. I answered. Amaya Voss? This is Elena from Hale Ventures. Mr. Hale saw your work online, something about obsessive repetitions? He's intrigued. Care to meet? There it was. The hook sinking in. Marcus. Already sniffing around. Just like before. But this time, I smiled into the receiver. Voice steady as steel. Tell him to come to the opening. If he's as intrigued as you say, he'll make the effort.
Click.
Let the games begin. The warehouse thrummed with the low buzz of the elite, curators in oversized glasses, collectors nursing overpriced gin, artists like me pretending we didn't care. I hovered near my pieces, nursing a warm beer, when I felt it, that prickle at the nape of my neck, like eyes boring into my soul. I turned, and there he was.
Marcus Hale.
35 going on timeless, in a navy suit that hugged his frame like it was painted on. Tall, broad-shouldered, with that mop of dark hair swept back just so, and those blue eyes that could disarm a room. In the original timeline, I'd melted on the spot, babbling about influences from Basquiat to Bacon.
Now,
I held his gaze, letting the silence stretch until it hummed with tension. Amaya, he said, extending a hand that I'd once traced with my tongue. His grip was firm, warm, too warm. Your work. It's haunting. Like you've captured something essential, something most people miss. I pulled back slowly, forcing a wry smile. Most people don't look close enough. Or they do, and they run. He chuckled, low and rich. the sound that had once made my knees weak. Not me. I'm Marcus Hale. I invest in visions like yours. Of course you do, I thought. You invest in stealing them. Aloud, I said, visions are cheap, mister.
Hale.
Execution? That's where the blood comes in. His eyes flickered, interest or recognition. Hard to tell. We talked for an hour, circling each other like predators in a too-small cage. I dropped hints about my process, vague enough to intrigue, laced with barbs about opportunists in the industry. He bit every time, probing for weaknesses, for the girl who'd once laid her heart bare over late-night takeout. But she was gone, buried under layers of varnish and vengeance. By the end of the night, he'd slipped me his card embossed, heavy stock, screaming old money, and murmured, "Let's collaborate. I see potential here." Big potential. I pocketed it without looking. Potential's a gamble, Marcus. And I don't lose. As he walked away, swallowed by the crowd, I exhaled. Phase 1, bait taken. But as I stared at my distorted reflections in the warehouse's rusted beams, doubt crept in. Could I really do this? Toy with the man who'd unmade me, without losing myself again? The rain outside picked up, drumming against the metal roof like a warning. Too late to turn back now. Weeks turned into a meticulously choreographed dance, each step pulling Marcus deeper into my web. I accepted his consulting offer, a cushy gig reviewing emerging artists for Hale Ventures' cultural arm, which I knew from the future was just a front for scouting talent to exploit. The office was a glass and steel monolith in Midtown, all open-plan bullshit designed to make you feel exposed. Innovative. My desk overlooked Bryant Park, where joggers blurred into streaks of color against the autumn leaves. But I barely saw them. Every email, every meeting was reconnaissance. Marcus was good, better than I'd remembered. He played the mentor with effortless charm, dropping names like Rothko and Coons over lunches at Le Bernardine, where the lobster thermidor cost more than my monthly rent. "You're raw, Amaya," he'd say, leaning in too close, his cologne a subtle assault of sandalwood and ambition. But raw can be refined. Let me show you the ropes. Refined.
Ha.
In the original run, those ropes had been the noose. I'd let him refine my series, suggesting tweaks that turned my visceral strokes into his sanitized versions, perfect for the blockchain auctions he'd later dominate. This time, I nodded,
Smiled.
and fed him half-truths, sketches that echoed his features but twisted them into something accusatory, portraits of anonymous men with eyes like voids. He ate it up, commissioning a private piece for his penthouse in Tribeca. "Something personal," he said, his fingers brushing mine as he handed over the check. 5 figures. Pocket change for him. Lifeline for me. Nights, I holed up in my apartment, poring over the digital breadcrumbs I'd collected. Using a VPN I'd set up with tips from a hacker friend I'd made in the future. R.I.P.
Jax.
You paranoid genius. I traced Marcus's early deals. Yale dropout turned VC shark. He'd started small, poaching ideas from RASD grads, flipping them into collaborations that left the originals penniless. But the real dirt? His partnership with Victor Lang, a Silicon Valley ghost who'd made his fortune in dark web data brokers. Together, they'd used art as camouflage. NFTs weren't just hype. They were shells for laundering crypto from hacks and insider trades. My series? The crown jewel. Tokenized and sold to oligarchs while I got a royalty that barely covered paint. The betrayal cut deeper than I'd anticipated. In quiet moments, staring at the ceiling cracks that mapped like veins, I'd remember the good parts, the stolen weekends in the Hamptons. His laugh echoing off the dunes. The way he'd whisper, "You're my echo," as we tangled in sheets scented with sea salt. Had it all been a lie? Or had I been the fool, painting him as the hero in my own tragedy? Either way, the secret festered. Marcus hadn't just stolen my art, he'd stolen my fire. Dimmed it until I doubted my own strokes. And the crime I'd borne? The plagiarism scandal he'd orchestrated, complete with forged emails from my burner account, had landed me blacklisted, broke, and broken. The pills were his mercy kill.
But mercy?
Fuck that. I started small acts of sabotage, the kind that itched without drawing blood. A typo in an investor pitch that made Hale Ventures look sloppy, costing them a minor deal. An anonymous tip to Art Forum about questionable sourcing in Marcus's portfolio, vague enough to sting, specific enough to make him sweat. He noticed, of course. Over coffee in his office, he fixed me with that blue-eyed stare. Heard some rumors floating around. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? I sipped my latte, feigning innocence. Rumors are the art world's oxygen. Marcus. Breathe deep. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Careful. Amaya. Some air's toxic. The warning hung between us, charged like the static before a storm. That night, I made my first truly controversial call, reaching out to Lena, my former assistant from the future timeline. She'd been loyal until Marcus bought her off with a promotion that exiled her to LA.
Now.
In this reset, she was still a barista in Williamsburg, slinging espresso with dreams of curation. I met her at a dive bar off Bedford, the kind with sticky floors and a jukebox stuck on Springsteen. Lena, I said, sliding her a beer. I need your help. It's about Hale. Her eyes widened. She knew the name. Everyone did. I laid it out. Not the rebirth part, crazy ant vibes. But the bones, Marcus's patterns. The artists he'd chewed up. She hesitated, twisting her napkin. Why me? And why now? Because you're smart, I lied smoothly. And because if we don't stop him, he'll do to you what he did to me. Half-truth. In the original, he'd seduced her too, used her to spy on me. Planting seeds of doubt in her, that was the gray area, the manipulation that made my stomach twist. But revenge wasn't clean. It was oil on water, iridescent and slick. She agreed, reluctantly. Our first move, infiltrating his holiday gala. A black tie affair at the Met where the 1% preened over canapes and Caravaggios. I borrowed a gown, emerald silk that hugged like a second skin, and Lena posed as my +1 date. Marcus spotted us across the room, his jaw tightening as we laughed too loudly at a Rothko knockoff. He approached, all teeth and charm.
Amaya.
Didn't expect you here. Surprises keep things fresh, I replied, clinking my flute against his. Lena hovered, playing the wide-eyed newbie, asking probing questions about his ethical sourcing. He deflected like a pro, but I saw the crack, the way his fingers tightened on his glass. Later, in the coatroom shadows, he cornered me. What's your angle? Voss, this isn't just ambition. I stepped closer, close enough to feel his breath hitch. Maybe I see through the polish. Maybe I want a piece of the shine for myself. His hand grazed my arm, electric and familiar. You could have it all. With me. the old Amaya would have caved. Let the heat pull her under. This one, I twisted away, leaving him with the echo of my laugh. But as Lena and I slipped into the night, hailed a cab through the sleet, guilt gnawed. Was I becoming him, twisting truths, using people? The city lights streaked past, blurring into accusations. And I wondered if vengeance was just another canvas, beautiful from afar, cracked up close. By spring, our little alliance had teeth. Lena uncovered emails, sloppy ones from Victor Lang, buried in Marcus's cloud backups, thanks. Weak passwords. Proof of the laundering. My future series tokenized under shell companies. Millions funneled to Cayman accounts. I held it like a grenade. Pin half pulled. But controversy brewed when Lena confessed her own secret. She'd slept with Marcus once. Years back. A one-night blur after a launch party. It meant nothing, she whispered over cheap wine in my apartment. But if this blows up, it won't touch you, I promised, even as rage boiled. Another betrayal. Smaller but sharp. Did I cut her loose? Expose her to save face?
No.
I swallowed it, added it to the palate. Forgiveness as weapon, now that was American as apple pie and bad decisions. We escalated. I pitched my Echoes series to a rival gallerist.
Derek Bass, Nori Lasчин.
But the name amused, slipping in hints about Hale's inspirations. Derek bit, offering a solo show. Marcus found out during a strategy session in his office. The skyline mocking us through floor-to-ceiling glass. You're jumping ship? His voice was velvet over razor wire. Ships sink. Marcus. I'm building a raft. He stood, towering, the air thickening. Don't make me regret investing in you. The threat landed, but I met it head-on. Regret's a color I paint in often. Deep indigo. As I left, his reflection in the elevator warped like a funhouse mirror. Phase 2. Isolation. I'd starve him of allies, one whisper at a time. But in the quiet of my studio, brush in hand, I painted not him, but us, two figures entwined in thorns, faces obscured. The canvas wept wet paint, and so did I. Revenge was a high wire, and I was walking it blind. Summer hit New York like a fever dream, humid nights where the air clung like regret. And the art scene migrated to the Hamptons for inspiration. I went, not for the salt air, but for the kill shot. Derek's show was set for September at his Tribeca space. Vortex Gallery, a minimalist haven for provocateurs. My Echoes would debut in full, 12 pieces, each a fractured homage to obsession, with subtle embeds, QR codes linking to artist notes that, when scanned, whispered doubts about provenance. Lena coded them, her tech skills a hidden gem from community college nights. We'd frame it as interactive art, but the real art? The slow poison seeping into Marcus's world. He knew something was brewing. Invites to his yacht parties dried up, replaced by curt texts, "We need to talk." I dodged, fueling the paranoia. In the future, that's what broke him first, the isolation. The whispers turning to shouts. This time, I'd amplify it. At a clambake in Montauk, rubbing elbows with hedge fund vampires, I cornered Victor Lang. Balding, paunchy, with eyes like dead fish. He was the Ian to Marcus's Young, tech brute to charm offensive. Mr.
Lang, i-purred.
Champagne flute in hand. Your NFTs are revolutionizing the space. But whispers say the sourcings. Creative. He blinked. sweat beading on his brow despite the ocean breeze. Whispers from who? Artists talk. Collectors listen. I leaned in, dropping Lena's forged email printout, subtle, implicating Marcus in a side deal that could trigger IRS flags. Care to clarify before it goes public? Victor paled, muttering about loyalty and discussing with Hale. By morning, my phone lit up with voicemails. Marcus. Voice edged with fury. What the fuck are you playing at? Amaya? Meet me.
Now.
We collided at his beach house. A glass box perched on dunes like a predator's lair. He yanked open the door. Shirt unbuttoned. Hair tousled, vulnerable. Almost. Inside, he growled. The living room screamed money. Eames chairs. A Basquiat on loan. Waves crashing beyond the panes. I poured scotch from his bar cart.
Neat.
And faced him. You wanted to talk.
His eyes blazed.
Victor's pulling out. Says you threatened him. This your idea of collaboration? I sipped, letting the burn steady me. Collaboration implies equals. Marcus. You taught me that by taking everything. He froze, then laughed.
Bitter.
Taking? I made you. Amaya. Without me, you're just another starving artist daubing angst on canvas. The old wound tore open. You made me a ghost. Stole my soul, pixel by pixel, and left me to rot. Confusion flickered. Genuine? Or the mask slipping? What the hell are you talking about? We've barely started.
Lies. Or was it?
The rebirth hit me anew. To him, this was prologue.
To me,
epilogue's ashes. I stepped closer, voice dropping. I know about the shells, the hacks. Echoes wasn't yours to echo. He grabbed my arm, grip bruising. Who fed you the shit? Lena? Some jealous hack. The controversial decision loomed. Tell the truth. Partial. To unbalance him. It's not shit, Marcus. It's memory. Of you, standing over me as I choked. Of the empire you built on my corpse. He released me, staggering back. You're insane. Drunk on your own myth. Am I? I pulled out my phone. Played a recording, not from the future, but simulated. Lena's voice deep-faked as mine, confessing fabrications in a deal gone sour. Gaslighting him with his own tactics. His face crumpled, the charmer cracking. This ends now. Amaya. I'll bury you. Try it, I whispered. But this time, I bury first. I left him there, storm raging outside mirroring the one in my chest. Was this justice or madness? Manipulating evidence. Deepfakes, it skirted legality, danced on ethics' grave. Back in the city, Lena waited at my place, eyes red-rimmed. He called me. Begging for dirt on you. Good, I said, but sleep evaded, haunted by what-ifs. What if he wasn't the monster alone? What if Victor had pushed him? Or worse. September's show was electric, crowds 3 deep. Flashbulbs popping like gunfire. My pieces hung like accusations, the repeated man, abstracted into rage and longing. Titles like Stolen Gaze and Fractured Trust. Critics raved. Voss channels the betrayal of the digital age, and buyers snapped up prints. QR scans spiking. Marcus arrived late. Suit rumpled. Eyes hollow. He lingered before the central piece, a diptych of his face. One side idolized. The other decayed. Beautiful, he murmured. Voice raw. And brutal. It's truth, I replied, crowd parting around us like water from sharks. He turned, close enough for whispers. What do you want? Amaya? Really? You, I said. On your knees. His laugh was hollow. Never. But as he left, I saw it, the unraveling.
Tips poured in anonymous.
From insiders spooked by our whispers. Victor cut ties publicly, citing creative differences. IRS audits loomed. Marcus's empire teetered. The climax brewed in October. A decade echo. He invited me to his penthouse for closure, champagne, city lights, the works. I went armed. USB with irrefutable logs. Backups from the future's shadows. The elevator hummed a scent. My pulse thunder. He waited in silk pajamas. Bottle open. Truce. I accepted the glass. But didn't drink. Confess. Confess what? Amusement faded as I plugged in the drive, projecting files onto his smart wall. Transactions. Emails. The forged docs that doomed me once. His face drained. How? Ghosts, I said. They talk. Panic flashed, then cunning. He lunged for the remote, but I was faster, smashing it. It's over, Marcus. The world's watching. He sank to the couch, head in hands. It wasn't personal. The art world eats its young. I loved you. In my way. Lies. Or the twist I'd half suspected. In the files. A buried email. To Victor. Dated years before us. Found the perfect mark. Artist. Isolated. Will break clean. But another. To a therapist. Redacted pleas about losing control. The hunger consuming me. Was he victim too? Groomed by Lang's machine?
No.
I hardened. Love doesn't poison. As sirens wailed distant, tip to feds already called. He looked up. Broken. What now?
Prison, I said.
And I paint on. But as I walked out, elevator descending, the controversial weight crushed. I destroyed him. But at what cost? Lena's deepfake could backfire. Paint me complicit. And the man I'd painted? Just a mirror, reflecting my own fractures. November's chill seeped into the bones of the city, frosting the High Line's rails and turning breaths to ghosts. Marcus's arrest hit the feeds like a bomb. Headlines screaming, art world mogul in money laundering scandal. My name buried in the bylines as whistleblower associate. The art scene erupted. Boycotts. Think pieces on ethics. My show extended to Momo whispers. I should have felt triumph. The sweet rush of vindication after 10 years of spectral haunting. Instead, it tasted like ash. The kind that lingers after a fire guts your home. Lena vanished the day after, texted need space.
Saw the...
Her deepfake roll gnawed at her. I knew. Guilt's a heavier brush than oils. I didn't chase. Controversial as it was, I'd used her like a tool, and tools bend under pressure. Alone in my now upgraded loft, sales from the show bought leather couches and actual windows. I stared at blank canvases. The muse murdered. Painting felt hollow. Each stroke a reminder. Revenge rebuilt nothing. It just cleared the rubble. The twist came uninvited. A manila envelope slid under my door on a gray dawn. No return address. Inside, photos me. In the original timeline. Laughing with Marcus at a gala. Sketches I'd burned. And a letter. Ink bleeding like tears. Amaya, if you're reading this, you won. But know this. I didn't lace the pills. Victor did. I found out too late.
Tried to stop it.
The Empire was his leash on me. Debts from Yale.
Threats to my family.
You were my escape. The one pure thing. Forgive?
No.
Understand? Maybe. Burn this.
Live.
Heart stuttered. Forged or truth? The handwriting matched his, and a postmark from Riker's pretrial. In the future I dismissed. He'd visited my suicide scene. Face ashen grief. Not guilt. The betrayal deepened. Layered. Not just thief, but pawn in a bigger game. Victor. The real serpent. Out free on bail. Lawyered to the gills. Rage reignited. But twisted, controversial. Self-reckoning. I'd avenged the wrong monster. Collateral in my fury. No time for wallowing. I called in favors. Derek, now a tentative friend, connected me to a PI with Feds ties. We traced Victor's moves, offshore flights, burner phones. The climax redux, a sting at his retrospective in Chelsea. A smug affair celebrating his survival. I crashed it uninvited. Black dress mourning the girl I'd been. Victor held court near a Warhol, paunch straining his cummerbund. Amaya Voss, he drawled.
Spotting me.
The little bird that sang. Birds migrate, I said, voice carrying. And peck eyes. Gasps rippled as I activated my phone app, Lena's parting gift. A live feed, hacking his gallery projectors. Files bloomed. Unredacted ledgers. Victor's signatures on the hacks. The pill order disguised as vitamins. Crowd murmured. Phones out. The digital noose tightening. You bitch, he lunged. But security swarmed. Feds materializing from shadows. Cuffs clicked. His empire crumbling in real time. Outside. Rain lashed the streets. Washing clean. Marcus? Charges dropped partial. He flipped on Victor for leniency. Out on house arrest. We met once. In a neutral cafe. Eyes meeting like strangers. Why, he asked.
Gaunt.
The blue faded.
Truth, I said.
Even the ugly kind. He nodded. Ghost of a smile. Your paintings.
Keep them.
They're yours.
I did.
The series sold out, but I kept one. The diptych. Thorns and all. Now it hangs in my studio. A scar turned talisman. The ending? No tidy bow. Lena returned, wary. And we co-curated a show on reclaimed narratives, healing. Gray as life. Marcus faded to whispers, rebuilding small. Legit.
Me?
I paint anew, women unbroken. Cities unscarred. Echoes that amplify, not haunt. Rebirth taught me, vengeance is a brushfire, consumes, clears, lets green shoot through. And in America's grind, that's as happy as it gets. Tense, controversial,
Alive.